Imagine going to England because of your late mother's wishes. Not only do you get a chance to interact with her, but you find love and a chance for a fresh beginning. That's what happened to adjunct Professor Joss, who travels to England to visit the farm where her late mother grew up, and eventually bonds with the single father Daniel and his little daughter Tegan. Joss has always been a lover of literature. Right from a young age, her grandmother and mother would recite poetry for her and would make her learn Wordsworth's poetry. Because of that, she grew up with a passion for literature. She starts teaching at the school as the adjunct literature teacher, along with her childhood friend Gwen, now the school librarian. Natalie, a student of Joss's, visits her in her office as she recites poetry. She admits that before Joss started teaching them, she wasn't interested in it. She was scared of coming to class. Joss reveals that she may not be coming back to teach because she wants to be something more. Before Natalie leaves, she gifts her British chocolate. Joss begins to take it and then briefly remembers that she has to take her medication, prescribed for anxiety. When Joss was younger, she was in a fatal accident with her father. Ever since then, she has had anxiety attacks and needs to take her drugs every day. Dr. Robin Grant comes over to tell her about her status in the school, where they need more qualifications from her. The superiors don't think her work is valid, even though she is talented. Joss tries to tell Robin that she has been published before. Robin worries that it is her lack of recognition, and mentions that her literary works haven't won any awards. Robin decides to give her a chance to prove herself, among many others, and tells her to write a paper in 2 weeks. Joss confides in Gwen about the responsibility, and believes that she won't be able to do it. Gwen humorously says that she loves being a librarian because there are no problems. Gwen realizes that this is a perfect time to give Joss what her mother, Carol, wanted for her when she passed away. Gwen reveals that Carol wanted her to visit the old farm that she grew up on, a few weeks before her 35th birthday. Joss worries about leaving for England, especially since she has an urgent paper to write. Gwen informs her that Carol would have wanted to go, and reminds her that she gave a promise. Additionally, Gwen tells her that it would be better to write it in England, because her mother's spirit will be directly there. Joss tries to think of many reasons that she can't go. Gwen, though, reminds her that she made a promise to her mother. Joss hasn't done anything for herself since her mother left. She worries that her anxiety may get bad if she visits. Gwen comes up with more advice, that she should do whatever her therapist told her to do, and should also take her. Joss reluctantly gives in to Gwen's persuasion and packs to leave. Little does she know that she is going to the childhood farm where her parents grew up, and she will find love as well as clarity. Daniel currently occupies the farm with his daughter and his grandmother, Merle. He studied business management in school, and left for the farm to assist his mother running it, because she is getting older. They also have a bed and breakfast on the farm, where they welcome guests. Merle loves having her son and granddaughter around, but doesn't do well with change. She seems grubby and unwilling to change. Daniel wants to install wind turbines on the farm, and she worries that it may not be the best decision. Daniel approaches Tegan, who is feeding the chickens. She confides in him that she is terrified of reading her poem at the annual festival, and she feels she won't be able to give the right words. He tells her that it's the beauty of creative writing, and she can never go wrong with it. Her grandmother brings out her school bag for her, and questions where he has been all day. He answers that he was setting up the cottage for the booking of Joss. She complains that the place was booked over a year ago, and the person never confirmed if they would be coming or not. Joss arrives in England, and is surprised at how beautiful it is. As she waits for her driver, she sees her mother's younger self walking through the street. She doesn't know if her mind is playing tricks on her. She moves forward, hoping to say something to the woman, but almost gets hit by a car, until Daniel intervenes and drags her back. She stares into his eyes, thankful that he helped her. He attempts to help her with her bags. She asks him if he is her driver, and he confirms, but doesn't tell her that he runs the B&B. When he carries her bag, he teases her that it is full of books, and quickly tells her that they have a library in England that would be perfect for her. Samson, his dog, is seated in the front seat. Daniel tells him to move, but he doesn't want to. Joss smiles and decides to sit at the back of the car. They begin to drive to the place together. Back at the cottage, Merle is showing Tegan how to prepare tea. Tegan tells her that her father loves to use the tea bag. Merle tells her that ladies use the leaf, and likens her son to Tarzan. Tegan notices her father's friend Felix on the field. Felix has been persuading Daniel to make changes to the farm which Merle doesn't like. Merle asks him what he is doing, and he answers that he is only checking out the sheep, and would love to be invited. She frowns and tells him that he was never invited. Merle sees Daniel's car drive in. Joss comes out of the car, but Merle doesn't notice her. She asks him why he invited Felix. Felix tries to say that his plans for the farm are a good industry, but Merle doesn't want to change, saying that her house is better with sheep. She complains that he turned the mailing house into a B&B, and now he wants to change the entire farm. Daniel apologizes to Joss about his mother, and explains to Felix that he forgot to tell his mother that he was coming to discuss the plans. Joss quickly understands that he runs the farm with his mother. He shows her around, and once again apologizes about Merle. She notices that he reads, and teases him. He gives her the Wi-Fi password, and his number to call in case she needs anything. She thanks him before he leaves. Joss can't sleep on her first night and keeps thinking about her mother and the fact that she has her deadline in 2 weeks. Over breakfast, Daniel informs Meryl that Felix will be coming today. She is still not a fan of the plans. In response, she wants him to keep his ideas at a minimum, while he wants to put his business degree to good use. She disregards him and says he is not exactly the Wolf of Wall Street. He immediately feels bad when his mother undermines him. Joss is writing when Tegan shows up with Samson the dog. Joss teases her about Samson, if he has ever eaten her homework. Tegan is interested in what Joss is doing and asks her about it. Joss lets her know about the research paper and talks about writing being hard, which Tegan agrees to. Joss offers her help, since she is a teacher, and tells Tegan that she can ask her about writing if she checks with her father and mother. Tegan reveals that it is just her father and grandmother. Tegan thinks that Joss is afraid of her grandmother when she tells her to ask her about helping her. Tegan goes on to defend her grandmother for being lovely, even though her friend Lily is afraid of her also. Daniel shows up and asks to hang out on Joss's first night at the cottage. She replies in an unsure tone, which he notices. She can't blame it on the jet lag. She is not just a good sleeper, but says it has nothing to do with the cottage. He apologizes for her rough night and then leaves with Tegan. Joss laughs when he teases Tegan about driving them to school. She admires him and the bond with his daughter. She tries to continue her papers, but can't because she is not motivated. She believes that a good walk around the cottage will help her. The land is rich and green, and she is fascinated by the entire scenery. She stands over the edge of the cliff, looking over the land. She then recites a line of poetry that her mother loved to say. Joss sees her mother's younger self again, and believes her mind is still playing tricks on her. Daniel confides in Felix about the way his mother talks to him. He complains that every suggestion that he makes, she doesn't like. He knows that she loves Tegan, but she treats him differently. Felix lets him know that his plans to diversify the cottage are good, but it won't make much difference. He reminds him about the contract, and then invites him and Tegan to the puppet show for the festival. Daniel tries to get out of it, but Felix insists that he must go. Joss sees Daniel walking on the wall and approaches him. She tells him that she is just trying to stretch her legs, ruminate, and procrastinate. She offers to help him with the wall. He says that it could help her get dirty, but she teases him that she B&B has a laundry machine. When they start work, he is intrigued by her profession. She tells him that her mother and grandmother introduced her to classic literature when she was Tegan's age. He realizes that's why she carries books. She clarifies that it's for her research on Wordsworth. When he plays clueless about who that is, she recites a quote for him, and he teases that it is from Mick Jagger. He wonders why she chose the farm to come to, instead of any other place. She confides in him that her mother grew up on the farm. He is surprised that it was her grandparents that sold the farm to his mother. She always wanted to come to the farm with her mother, but she passed away. He mentions that her mother is lucky because he also grew up on the farm. He gives her a backstory about himself and how he went to college in London and now works in the global market. She considers it romantic that he left everything he had to come and cater for the farm. He answers that he came to sort out things for his mother, who thinks that she is young. He claims that he can handle everything. After helping him out, she decides to go back to doing her paper. On her way to her room, she notices Tegan in her soccer gear. Once again, Tegan complains about her homework is hard. Joss agrees to help her. Tegan mentions the festival and worries that they will have to read in front of the class before they have chosen it. Joss answers that there is no right or wrong in creative writing. Tegan smiles because that's the exact thing her father said to her. While helping her, Joss notices some mistakes in her reading and writing. Tegan leaves to divert and promises to come back for them to continue. She decides to talk with Daniel, but doesn't see him when she knocks. Instead, it is Meryl. Joss gets scared to tell her about it and lies that she only came to drop the notebook Tegan left behind. Joss begins to read and write in her room. She checks the time and worries that she hasn't taken her medication. She briefly takes it and feels lightheaded. She goes for a morning walk and sees Daniel. She realizes that it is the best time to tell him about Tegan. She lets him know that Tegan may be dyslexic, which he finds difficult to believe. Joss knows because her mother had dyslexia. She lets him know that people with dyslexia are smart and excel in areas that people don't usually do. Daniel is mute while trying to understand everything. Joss notices that it may be overwhelming for him, so she suggests assisting her. He declines her help and leaves her to look after the sheep. She is disappointed, wishing she hadn't said anything. At home, Daniel decides to tell his mother about what Joss said. Meryl decides to check Tegan out herself while she does schoolwork. She tells her what to do, while Daniel sneaks up, listening to them. Meryl goes to talk to Daniel and complains that Joss may be trying to put her mouth in other people's business. She doesn't believe that anything is wrong with her granddaughter. Daniel believes that a doctor's appointment would be effective, but Meryl complains that it would be too much for Tegan because her mother abandoned her. Angry, Meryl begins to scold Daniel about the time he met Catherine, Tegan's mother. Daniel decides to have a talk with Tegan, who reveals that she has been struggling with reading and writing. She didn't say anything because she didn't want him to worry. He tells her that they are a team and she should always tell him things. Tegan mentions that Joss could help, but Daniel doesn't want to disturb her. Tegan is beginning to love talking to Joss, because she is nice and warm. Before he leaves her to go to bed, Tegan wonders if dyslexia goes away, but he lets her know of the treatment and promises that everything will be okay. Daniel later visits Joss and thanks her for what she did. He lets her know that Tegan loves talking to her. She offers to help them out more. Therefore, Joss begins to help Tegan with her reading and writing. She tells her that she sings when she is stuck, because the words flow out of her. She decides to show her how to do it. She dances while reciting the words. Tegan joins in, and they have fun. Daniel and Meryl watch them from afar. Meryl is worried that she may not be good, while Daniel is happy that his daughter is bonding with someone. Daniel invites Joss to the puppet show. She agrees to go for an hour, and he is excited. They have a good time and enjoy themselves. Felix and his wife, Michelle, are introduced to Joss. Michelle runs the literary segment in the festival. They all go for ice cream and talk about business. She tries to leave, and he wants to LGO with her, but she stops him and tells him to have fun. Before she leaves, he thanks her for what she is doing for his daughter. He is excited about it. Michelle and Felix believe that he may have caught feelings for Joss. Robin calls Joss and says that 4 other people are competing against her. Joss worries about how she will get the paper done in time. Robin says that her research is impeccable, but it needs editing. After the phone call, Joss has anxiety and begins to hyperventilate. She goes to another area of the field and breathes hard. She remembers some words that her mother always told her and eventually manages to relax. Meryl is upset to find out that Daniel is still talking to Felix about the wind turbines. She complains that he wants to carve out the farm. He tries to tell her that the world is changing, so they must change too. He promises her not to move forward unless she gives her final approval. Upset, Daniel visits Joss and asks her to go on a ride. He needs the distraction. She wants to, but she is busy. He convinces her to go out using Wordsworth quotes. Even though she tries to get out of it, she wants to talk to him more, so she agrees to his request. She recognizes the old place her mother used to take pictures of. Daniel suggests that they roam the area, but she gets scared about the height. He worries that she may be panicking and allows them to leave to go somewhere else. He apologizes for her anxiety, and she explains to him that it started when she was a child and then progressed to adulthood. She recalls that her mother always helped her with it. He finds out that her birthday is coming up soon and takes her to the lovely library, and she is amazed by the number of books available. She picks up a book by Oscar Wilde and says that the words you fill your mind with will determine the kind of person you are. He decides to buy her a book as an early birthday gift. Blushing, she tells him that he doesn't have to, but he teases her that he is a gentleman and wants to. They go out to the cafe to spend time with themselves. At the cafe, they continue to bond. He tells her that he got married after college, against the wishes of his parents. Catherine got pregnant when he started business school. Catherine's parents cut her off because of the wedding. The problem started because of a lack of funds. He came home one day and Catherine had left her baby. She left a note explaining that she couldn't do it anymore. He mentions that it was the last time he ever saw her. Joss doesn't believe that someone could leave her child like that. She also confides in him about being afraid of her past. He tells her not to worry about the past and to look forward to the future. Tegan rushes home to tell her father about a goal she scored during soccer. Meryl tells her that neither he nor Joss is around. Tegan says her dad likes Joss, and she can believe it. Meryl worries that Joss may not be the ideal woman, because she will be leaving soon. Joss notices that Daniel is still worried about Tegan. He asks her if she could join in on the meeting with the teacher. She agrees to help him out. During the meeting, the teacher explains that early intervention is key. She tells Daniel not to beat himself up about the diagnosis and assures him that everything will be all right. She also tells him that Tegan is still allowed to read at the festival, no matter what. At home, Meryl confronts Daniel for taking Joss with him. She hates that he leads with his heart, at the expense of everyone else. She complains that he should have told her about the plans for the wind turbines. She throws out the fact that his father would be disappointed that he is selling his land, and also cries that a woman he loves will leave him once again. Gwen calls Joss to talk about life in England. She teases her about Daniel, and tells her to have the time of her life. Joss goes to the house to ask for a printer, which Meryl shows her. Joss tries to make conversation with her, but Meryl doesn't say a thing. Joss rants about Carol Lambert and says that they grew up in the house together. Meryl is shocked to hear the name and realizes that she is the granddaughter of the people who sold her the farm. She brings out a box that was left by her mother. In it are various poetry books, all signed by her mother. Joss is thrilled to see her mother's memories. Meryl found it in the milling house and couldn't throw away someone's treasures. Joss is so happy to see it that she starts to cry. Meryl comforts her and tells her that her mother always wanted her to feel good. Joss notices that the words, presence of love, are underlined. When she returns to her room, she tries to edit her work, but has a hard time doing it. She eventually has an anxiety attack. She realizes that her mother won't want her to be worrying over this, so she quits. She burns the papers in the fire and sends a mail to Robin withdrawing from the competition. She tells Daniel and Tegan that she doesn't have to write the report anymore because she quit, although she will still be leaving in 2 days to continue her job as an adjunct professor. Joss gives Tegan a book of poetry that Carol left her. She says that it will help her in her time of need. Daniel thanks her and says that he is grateful for everything that she has done for his family. He invites her to the festival. When they get there, the children read their poems and write-ups. Tegan gets on stage to read hers, with the help of Meryl, who shows her pictures of the words to say. Joss is pleased that she read a poem that Carol liked. After the festival, Joss and Daniel decide to go for the stroll together alone. He realizes that he likes her, but she is leaving tomorrow morning. She tells him that she can't leave without putting an end to whatever they have. She kisses him, which also proves that she likes him. The next morning, she is prepared to leave. She takes pictures of herself by the mill. She hugs Tegan, who thanks her for everything. Joss also says goodbye to Meryl, who is surprisingly a good fan of hers. Daniel cannot bear to say goodbye, so he stays in the house. Daniel decides to confront his mother and tells her that the plans for the farm are great. She is now realizing it and apologizes for all the resistance she put up. She tells him that he is a good son, father, and a precious man. She hugs him while crying. Inspired, Daniel goes to the station to look for Joss and tells her not to leave so quickly, begging her to start a life in England. She mentions that she has family and friends back home, but he implores her that she can make some new memories there, with them. He convinces her by saying that the future may be scary, but he'll be right there for her. They kiss each other in the station. A year afterward, she is now running the book festival, and is also in a relationship with Daniel.